Ex-girlfriend forgot she had AP's messages on her laptop, so I found out, begs for mercy after I dump her. First time posting here, so forgive me if I ramble. Just need to get this off of my chest, and therapy ain't so cheap as it turns out. I've recently exited a 3-year relationship due to infidelity, and it's been one hell of a hard thing to do. I guess I need some pointers on where to proceed from here, and how the behavior of my ex could really manifest itself as it did. I, 25M, met my ex, 24F, when we were both in the same city, and I was working in the bar scene. Instantly, we hit it off, and slept together the same night that we met. She told me on the way back to my house that she had a boyfriend, who she'd been with for 9 years, but lived in her home country. I'm not proud of it, but I had been cheated on 6 months prior, and was very promiscuous at the time, so I went ahead with it. This later led to some trust issues for me in the relationship, but I learned to overcome them. After this, we started seeing each other, and fell for each other pretty fast. She was ambitious and beautiful, and our morals aligned well. She broke up with her boyfriend after a couple of weeks, and we started a relationship. It was really great at the time, always going out, weekend trips and traveling abroad ensued for the next year. I moved into her place after about 6 months, before getting our own place shortly after. Now, it is worth mentioning a couple of things. Firstly, she obviously had some problems during this phase. She was on a number of medications, had gotten out of rehab for snow about 2 years prior, and obviously had some issues around her father abandoning her at an early age. These beasts reared their head in multiple ways, but I believed that I could work with her through the problems, and she showed signs of steady improvement all the time. She was in therapy, and still is. Secondly, we were from very different backgrounds. I was kinda scraping by at the time, whereas she was from a rather wealthy family. This honestly didn't cause many issues, bar a few miscommunications about how we could pursue what we wanted, etc. I still afforded to take her away for her birthday and such. We progressed with the relationship further after moving in, her meeting all of my family, and me flying over to the States a number of times to meet hers. We all got on like a house on fire, and were very well matched. One rather big issue in our relationship was that she had studied in African education, and had decided to pursue this as a career, which I supported. I was still, and still am, studying. This meant she went away a couple of times throughout the course of the relationship to do research, etc., which we handled. Finally, she got a job in Africa on a 6-month contract. We discussed at the time breaking up, but decided we loved each other enough to attempt a long-distance relationship. This went well up until a month in, when coronavirus hit, and she was sent back to her home country. Equally, I decided to return to my hometown after losing my job. A couple months later, she decided to move to my hometown, and we spent 4 months living with my mother and siblings, which felt very natural. Then, hell ensued. Firstly, her granddad passed away, and this was really tough to get through, but I supported her in every way that I could. A couple of weeks later, a very good friend of mine fell out of a window and died just around the corner from my house. I loved the guy and was super devastated, and she was there for me throughout. At the same time, we'd been planning a move to a city near to my hometown, as she had a remote job and I had secured employment there. I'd been visiting for a number of weeks to get the house sorted out, going for viewings, etc. I put down the deposit, and was ready to move on from the year we'd had. Then, on the day of my friend's funeral, she got a call saying that her grandma had now fallen ill, and she would have to go back the next day. I was obviously devastated but supported her thoroughly. I took her to the airport, and we said goodbye, not knowing when we'd next see each other. Her grandma passed around a week later, and I cancelled the move for the time being. Around a week later, she called me and said that she'd been accepted at a job in Africa, which she'd mentioned to me months prior. I genuinely don't think she thought that she'd get it, but it was a 2-year contract that was her dream job. I encouraged her to take it, despite being a massive issue for the relationship. Initially, I maintained that I could not go, and we left it at that. However, I managed to secure a remote job, and I thought that this put me in good stead to at least give it a shot, especially after the year we'd had. The pay wasn't great, but enough to get by. She was on quite a large wage at her new job. I went to her home country over Christmas to visit her and ensure this is truly what we both wanted. We had an amazing time and gave it the go-ahead. So, I returned home and got a bit of money together to leave in 6 weeks. We were very in touch throughout this time, as we always were. Having phone sex, eating a meal over Skype on Valentine's Day, etc. However, there were occasions where she would go missing for the evening. I trusted her, and so it was pretty easy with it. She called me over this time and told me she was going for a drink with a guy alone. Again, okay with me. I was admittedly in a bit of a depressive state at the time, due to being in lockdown and having my friend die, so I think I was a little bit short on occasion and struggled a little bit with LD. The day came to fly out, and she was super excited, expressing this to her friends and family. She arranged to pick me up at the airport and ran over to me when I arrived. She'd sorted everything, the Airbnb to quarantine in, what we would do there, etc. It felt so nice to be there with her. I quickly began to assimilate, meeting expats and locals in the country. I didn't speak the language very well, but was learning as time went on. Many people expressed how much she had talked about me. She took me out with her friends, and we generally had a great time. I took up some sports with friends, and things were great. We were viewing places for just the two of us at the time as well. One night after a boxing class, I went to the local pub with our flatmate and others from the class. She came and met us with her friends. We were all talking, and she mentioned she'd been there with that same guy she'd called me about a few weeks back. Not that she'd mentioned it. I quickly pulled her up on it, and she lied that it was the same night she'd told me about before. I knew it wasn't, and so asked her again, this time with her admitting it was another night. I was pretty pissed, as I never minded her hanging out with guys, but we always agreed to tell each other. We went home and I had a frank discussion with her that I absolutely had to be able to trust her. And if I caught her lying again, I'd have to end it. She agreed. I requested to look through her messages with the guy, which showed he was flirting with her, but she wasn't reciprocating. The next day, my laptop died, and I needed it for my work. I spent all night trying to fix it to no avail. She offered to lend me hers, and it was all good. I woke up in the morning, and she was already up, deleting messages off her laptop. This obviously made me very suspicious. I grilled her, and she said her mate had been cheating on her boyfriend and she didn't want me to know. I pushed a little harder, until she swung around and admitted she'd slept with this guy on a drunken night out. I was in shock, and got pretty angry at that point, ripping up some photos we had of each other. I immediately booked a flight home, and asked her if there was anyone else, which she denied. When she went to the bathroom, I looked at her laptop, and she'd already messaged her flatmate telling him not to tell me about another guy. I was devastated. She left to her friends, I packed up my crap, and waited in the room until my flight. The hour before I left for the airport, she came back to try and get some closure, I think. I didn't really give her much. She said she was sorry, that it was meaningless, and that she didn't want me to hate her. I listened but was pretty shut off. I got in the taxi and left, and that was that. We spoke on the phone once since, and she said it was a drunken mistake. Fair enough once, but twice. She could have come to me, and I would have tried to understand, but the lying broke it for me. Now, I'm back where I started, trying to deal with this. I just can't rationalize why she would throw it away over something so momentary. I know she had issues with self-esteem, but if she had suggested an open relationship, I would have accepted, and wouldn't have minded the idea myself. But she broke the understanding we had in terms of what the relationship was. Part of me wants to call her and try to understand it, but I know this wouldn't be wise until my emotions have settled. We're on different continents now, and it would just be too hard to rectify, I think. It's doubly bad that I had begun to see my new life in the country starting to pick up. I'm sure many would tell me to just move on. Despite this, I do believe I could trust her again if she really put in the work, but I'll be fine if it doesn't work out at the same time. I've been studying, exercising, and generally working on myself. How can I proceed here? I do love her and feel like I should have given her more chance to open up about it at the time rather than getting angry and booking the flight. But I also know I couldn't handle the disrespect at that time, and didn't really have a space to go to. Despite that, all of her other actions have shown that she really loves me, at least as far as it seems. She was talking about us adopting cats the day before I found out, but everything flipped so quickly. Also, was I foolish to expect this not to happen, given her problems that had flared up earlier in the relationship? We have reached the end of the story. Let's listen to some of the comments by our Reddit listeners. Comment 1. You couldn't have been too shocked that she slept with someone else after a night out. I mean, that's literally how your relationship started. And honestly, it's hypocritical to have even been mad about it. You didn't mind when you were the one helping her cheat on her boyfriend. As far as moving forward, you can if you want. You can try an open relationship, but that's not really for everyone. Are you going to be okay knowing she might be out ducking someone else every time it takes her a couple hours to get back to your calls or texts? If not, then I wouldn't suggest it. If you get back together in a closed relationship, can you actually trust her? This just seems like what she does, eases into one relationship testing it out to see if it's what she wants before ending her current one. That's not someone I would want to be with. Granted, I wouldn't have started a relationship the way you guys did. OP reply. You know, you're completely right. It's hypocritical. I guess I thought the difference was they'd been together since they were 13, and it was just comfortable to her. I guess not. However, I don't think this has anything to do with moving relationships. If anything, she usually tools for our relationship, and I'd have had no idea if it didn't slip. Again, not a great thing, but hey-ho. That's honestly something I'm going to have to sit on and think over. Cheers. Comment 2. If they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you, is the saying. It sucks that you had to learn that lesson the hard way. You should not give her a second chance. She cheated on her last BF with you, and now she's cheated on you. That's a pattern of behavior that might not change, especially if you take her back. Taking her back just shows her that she can cheat on you, and if she cries enough, she won't have to face any consequences from you. Caught my wife, 32F. Cheating with her coworker. I can't divorce her because I'll lose my job. I don't know what to do right now. I will be staying at a friend's house a ways away. She does not know where he lives, which is why I chose his house. I do not want to see her right now. I just want to get some clothes, my dogs, and some essentials and go away for a while. I don't know what else to do. I want to go get trashed at the bar, but I believe alcohol is best for celebrations, not therapy. I want to kick her out, but I still love her very much and don't think that will do any good. I want to send her lover's wife all the screenshots I've gathered. Sexting, him crap-talking his wife, her crap-talking me, and even just casual conversation. Something about ruining his life doesn't sit well with me. The affair has been about a year long as best as I can tell, but she told me that before I stated that I knew that already. I want to just talk it out with someone that I don't know. Is there a good subreddit for that? I feel like I'm marching through a nightmare, and I just need to wake up. The other part, that honestly is peripheral to fixing or ending our marriage, is that I am a pastor. In my denomination, divorce is a disqualifying factor to the office of pastor. Unless my elder board has compassion on me and is willing to stand with me as the story unfolds, I will not have a job soon. This is hardly even a thought right now, but it is a factor to consider. I am more about my own personal health and my marriage than I am ministry. Update. I refuse to go home. Every room I go in, my imagination runs wild with what they may have done. When I'm there alone, I feel like he is just around the next corner in the house, like a ghost. Anything I look at in our home feels gross. The air feels gross. The shower feels gross. I will never go in the bedroom again. I want to level it and build a new house. It's not my home anymore. It's a deep hurt. Deep down, I feel like I have nowhere to call my home. I have most of my crap and am living in a house with extended family now. I shouldn't complain because they are great and generous. But there's 6 people and 1 bathroom. A week ago, I had a house, land, a king-size bed, and privacy. Now I sleep on a double in an 8x10 room, have no privacy, and I'm glad to be here if home is my only other option. I loved my home. I thought it was something I had worked on with my wife for us, but it's hers now. I cannot see myself ever living there again. Update. What do you do with the memories you have with them? I try not to think about it. But I just saw a picture of us on a hike, and I totally lost it. I mean a bad ugly cry that I haven't experienced before. I've let my anger take center stage for the past 2 weeks, and my grief just hit me hard out of nowhere. What do I do with those memories? I cherish them, but any memory I think of is tainted by what she was doing behind my back, that she was in love with another guy at the time / using me / lying to my face. I hate her, I love her, and I just want the life I thought I had back. Update. I worked hard on my relationship with my in-laws over the last 7 years. I love them, genuinely. We all tried to work through differences and simply appreciate each other. My wife is pitting them against me. Part of me wants to let them just be her parents and love her unconditionally. I just hate that they are disappointed with me. It's really getting to me that I might lose them. They believe I'm the bad guy in this situation, and it really bothers me. Update. A little over a month ago, I discovered my wife was cheating on me. Somehow these past 2 weeks she has began to normalize her behavior in conversation with me and our mediator. She is not remorseful, and is not doing much of anything to change. She says she's done with the boyfriend, but if they actually broke up and if she wants me back is still a mystery. She beats around the bush when I ask about this. She wants to go on dates, have me move back in the house and pretend like nothing happened, and is clear about just wanting for us to move on and start over as friends. Somehow, I feel guilty and small for not being ready to do any of these things. I feel bad that I still have a problem with what she did. I want to move on and forgive her. But I'm still angry and think that she is untrustworthy, narcissistic, and not someone I want to be with. I can hear her in my head, telling me that it's been 5 weeks and I need to get past this. Sometimes her voice becomes my voice in my head, and I start to feel like I'm being childish or immature for continuing to hold on to this offense. How do I convince myself that I shouldn't just sweep it under the rug and let it be in the past? I don't want to be her friend, and I'm still working on getting my head in a place where I can confidently say that I don't want to be her husband either. How do I stop myself from feeling guilt over not satisfying her wants in this moment?